Grand Rapids, Michigan tonight.
Mr. Ford will be buried on the grounds of his Presidential Museum in Grand Rapids tomorrow morning. The 38th President of the United States died the day after Christmas in the age of 93. A state funeral was held this morning at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. The military has a major role in presidential funerals. 13 News military reporter Mike Gooding joins us now with the story of one local man who's been a member of this elite detail.
Well, that's right, Regina. David, his name is Coast Guard Petty Officer 3rd Class Chris Evanson. He served on the Presidential Guard of Honor platoon for President Reagan when final honors were rendered to him back in June 2004. Evanson says it was the privilege of a lifetime. Chris Evanson spent 3 years on the Coast Guard Presidential Honor Guard, selected fresh out of boot camp while still a teenager, living up to the motto, Poise, Pride, Perfection. He was on hand for important events. That's him directly behind the waving hand of China's Prime Minister. Evanson was also there for President Ronald Reagan in June 2004 for 3 days, standing watch over the president's coffin at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California. Evanson can fully relate to what the Military Honor Guard went through today, rendering final honors to President Gerald Ford.
I can't tell you how privileged I feel when I look back on my experiences. Growing up in Southern California, not knowing what I wanted to do in life, and shortly after high school, I'm standing on the south lawn of the White House, or Arlington National Cemetery, with the tomb of the unknown soldier. Every ceremony that I got to partake in was an absolute privilege, and I think if you ask any honor guardsman, they'll tell you the same thing.
Honor Guard duty also took Evanson to upstate New York in 2004 for the funeral of Petty Officer 3rd Class Nathan Brunkenthal. He was one of 3 U.S. personnel killed in the attack against the USS Firebolt, and to date, still the only member of the Coast Guard to die in the Iraq War. Mike Gooding, 13 News.
Still
A short memorial service for the Reagan family. Afterwards, Nancy Reagan returned to her home in Bel Air and began watching on television what's transpired here. Today, she said that the outpouring of love for her husband is simply incredible, and she is not the only one that is impressed by what has happened here. As day turned tonight, the buses began to back up on the hill leading up to the Reagan Presidential Library. By the end of tonight, close to 106,000 people filed past the flag-draped coffin of President Ronald Reagan. Even the honor guard in the rotunda are impressed by what they have seen.
What's amazing about it is to think of the people that have waited 7, 8, perhaps 9 hours out here just to capture a 10, 15-second glimpse of the casket.
22-year-old Coast Guard Seaman Christopher Evans, born in Burbank and raised in Costa Mesa, is one of 15 members of an elite military honor guard, split into 2 shifts, day and night. They stand at attention by the flag-draped coffin, 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off for 2.5 hours. And it's all voluntary.
Think about the magnitude of this event. This is the first time in 30 years there's been a state funeral of this magnitude, and it's like a shooting star. It happens few and far between, and so when something like this happens, you got to make the most of it and indulge in the moment.
The thousands that passed through the rotunda today include Senator John Kerry, LA Mayor James Hahn and his sister, Councilmember Janice Hahn, and actress Bo Derek. But U.S. Army Private Keith Clifford of Sacramento told me he never noticed any of them.
I just stare right here at the brim of my hat and try and do a cross-eyed though, staring at it, and just keep my focus on there.
It's really speechless to see them there and totally motionless, eye contact, just watching, observing everybody. It's just an awe. I really have no words.
And this week-long farewell to the nation's 40th president continues tomorrow night in the nation's capital. And after a memorial service on Friday, President Reagan's flag-draped coffin will return here to California for a sunset burial on Friday night here at the Presidential Library.